Today I want to talk about Rory Gilmore and how I think she is just an anxious, avoidant, and depressed girly.
I'm ready to wallow now.
Early Rory is the one people root for. Later she's the one people feel disappointed by. The story gets flattened into a familiar narrative, one where she had everything handed to her and still managed to mess it up. But to me, Rory feels less like someone who suddenly changed and more like someone whose coping mechanisms eventually stopped working. From the beginning, Rory is rewarded for a very specific kind of personhood. She's compliant, polite, and does really well in school. She absorbs expectations without pushing back on them and learns quickly that being impressive keeps things smooth and keeps people happy, especially Lorelai. Praise like that teaches you what keeps love steady and what makes people proud, which also teaches you what to avoid. Over time, she becomes skilled at holding herself together, with admiration gradually taking the place of being fully seen. Her anxiety shows up through over-preparing and overthinking, and in how quickly she shuts down when she's criticized. Her whole life, she's been surrounded by people who talk to her like she's exceptional and capable of anything. And when that message comes consistently from her mother and her grandparents, it starts to feel less like encouragement and more like a baseline that she has to maintain. Even her relationships reinforce it. She often dates people who are, at least academically, a notch below her, which keeps her in the role of the impressive one. Rory tends to deal with problems by moving away from them, leaning on time and distance to handle what she doesn't know how to handle emotionally. You can see in the way she drifts into something inappropriate with Jess while she's still with Dean, keeping the relationship she's supposed to want while reaching for the one that feels charged and exciting. This can look like entitlement or apathy, and it definitely is, but I also think it can read as overwhelm that also turns into withdrawal. Especially because she knows Lorelai approves of Dean and can't stand Jess, so staying with Dean keeps her inside the version of herself that feels acceptable. When Dean breaks up with her, she avoids the pain until Lorelai pushes her to actually feel it.
I'm ready to wallow now.
When Jess leaves, we never actually see her grieve in an outward way at all. It makes you wonder how much of Rory's pain ever gets expressed. We see that she's shown reading numerous times deeply depressing literature almost casually, as if sadness is something she knows how to sit with internally. From the outside, Rory looks composed and capable, which makes it easy to miss the slower shift underneath it. Curiosity thinning out, direction blurring, and her life starting to feel powered by obligation more than desire. But let's talk about when audiences actually start turning on Rory. We start to turn on her when she sleeps with Dean, and then that reaction hardens when she drops out of Yale. By that point, her choices are hurting other people, especially Lindsay. Oh god. She stops being aspirational, so she gets recast as entitled instead of someone whose sense of self has been eroding for a long time. Maybe it's both, though. What's interesting is that this avoidant, self-protective pattern isn't new when those moments happen. You can see it earlier, especially during the Jess era, season 2, where she keeps choices half made and feelings half said, then seems surprised when the consequences finally arrive. The stakes get higher later on, but the behavior itself has been there for years. This is also why her struggles as a journalist don't feel as shocking as people make them out to be. Early on, you can see how easily her sense of direction wavers once emotional discomfort enters the picture. She resists going to Chilton largely because of her crush on Dean, and she spends years talking about Harvard as if it's the only imaginable future, only to pivot to Yale with surprisingly little internal resistance once family, gravity, and opportunity pull her there. You can even see it in her panicked reaction when Jess suggests journalism might be a little too rough for her.
Well, it's not a little too rough for me. I hope it's not a little too rough for me. I've been talking about this forever. I mean, I don't even know what I would do.
Hey, I didn't mean to freak you out.
Later, Mitchum's criticisms lands with far more force, and she drops out of Yale, which makes sense in the context of a confidence built around external reassurance more than internal conviction. She talks about journalism as a calling, but much of her drive seems tied to being seen as a girl who works hard and makes people proud, which makes the goal feel less like something she's deeply connected to and more like an identity she's maintaining. When praise thins out and someone in power suggests she might not have it, the passion doesn't hold in the way you'd expect from someone whose dream is anchored somewhere sturdier than approval. It raises a simpler question about Rory, whether she was ever deeply attached to journalism itself or to the affirmation that came from excelling at something admirable. When feelings aren't named or shared, they can accumulate. Over time, that kind of internalization can do real damage. Rory's arc makes more sense when it's read as accumulation rather than collapse. By adulthood, we see that pattern hasn't disappeared. It's just not as cute. In the revival, you see the same habits playing out with higher stakes and fewer buffers. In the affair with Logan, in her expectation of access and ease, in the way she disengages when situations don't meet her where she expects to be met. It reads like someone still relying with the same coping strategies even though they no longer work the way they once did. Once your identity has been built around exceptionality, criticism can unmoor you. Without external affirmation to hold things in place, direction starts to slip. Motivation thins out, and avoidance becomes easier than recalibration. Anxiety keeps you moving until it ultimately leads to depression. And I think that Rory is a portrait of what can happen when you spend too long becoming who other people want you to be and not enough time learning what you actually want for yourself. Thanks so much for listening. I'll see you guys next week in another episode. If you liked this video, please like and subscribe. And also let me know what your thoughts are. And I'll see you next time. Bye.
Well, it's not a little too rough for me.